Joining me now is former MLB player Harold Reynolds. Harold, you played for the Seattle Mariners, the Baltimore Orioles, and the Los Angeles Angels. Aren't we lucky to have you here? Thank you for joining us.
No, I'm lucky to be here. Thank you. This is a beautiful studio. You're a phenomenal journalist. I followed your career.
You are welcome anytime if you're going to come here and talk like that. We are talking baseball. Here we are 75 years after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. Yeah. How important was he to you as you made your journey, which I know is a rough one?
Well, you know, the thing about it is it's monumental, not just for me as a baseball player. Sure, being an African-American, he broke the color barrier. And we can all say, I wouldn't have played without Jackie. Right. Somebody would have came along, but if he didn't do what he did, it might have been 25 years later, 30 years later. You know, but what he did, though, in my mind, it changed our country. It's bigger than baseball. This is before civil rights. This is before Dr. King.
Right.
Dr. King said there's no Dr. King without Jackie Robinson. So to me, that's why this is such a big day and it's such a big moment in American history, not just baseball.
It's crazy that it's been 75 years because he is part of the folklore of this country and the fabric of this country. In 1972, about a week before Jackie Robinson died, he gave an acceptance speech for an award at the World Series. In it, he said this: "I am extremely proud and pleased to be here this afternoon, but must admit, I'm going to be tremendously more pleased and more proud when I look at that third base coaching line one day and see a black face managing in baseball." As of this season, there are only 2 black head coaches in the MLB. Do you think Jackie Robinson would be happy with the statistics that we're seeing right now, especially when it comes to management?
No, he'd be frustrated. I think what Jackie was talking about, if you look at his life, after he walked away from baseball, he went into managing, not on the baseball diamond, but in business. So he had a clear vision. And I think what people miss too, you got to study the history of when he was coming up. And one of the things about being a Negro League ball player, that was a huge business. So Jackie understood business. He understood that black folks could handle business, that they managed games, teams, ran organizations, companies, you name it, because the black community had all those things going on.
Right.
So the frustration today for him would be, 2 black managers in baseball. I think he'd be looking at the general managers, the ownership, all those type of things as well, where we should be progressing to at this point in time.
I think you said something really poignant. You said this is bigger than baseball. Jackie Robinson was bigger than baseball. And I think any of the other players, because you do become icons, you do become people that young people look up to. And I know that you work with little leagues where you live. What are you seeing are the biggest barriers for African-American children to get into baseball? Because we are not seeing the numbers in baseball. Other sports, yes, football, basketball, lots of black folks. But baseball is really lagging behind when it comes to the number of African-American children who are getting involved.
Well, it's a loaded question, and I have a unique perspective. When I broke into the big leagues in 1983, I had 15 African-American players on my team. That was a sport, and it was closer to the 70s and 60s, obviously in the 80s, than where we are in 2022.
I do want to recognize just how difficult it is just to get, I mean, you have to do the minor leagues first. It's not like the other sports in some ways.
You're right.
The path there.
And that plays into it.
It's hard.
That plays into it. If you watch college football, we have a draft coming up.
Right.
That kid's playing the NFL next week.
Right after college.
Happens.
That's right.
Baseball, you do work through the minor leagues. But I think the biggest barrier, we can talk about all those, is financially. We have a affordability problem in baseball. And with the world we live in now, you're specializing at age 12, pick a sport. A bunch of me and my friends can get together and get a basketball. We can all play.
Right.
We can get a football, and we don't have to have flags. We can play 7-on-7.
Yeah.
Baseball, you got to have a glove. You got to have a bat. You got to have all the equipment, the essentials. And we've gotten away from sharing it community-wise to I got to have my own individual.
I'm going to talk about that because you just brought up a really important point. Let's look at how much the average cost of baseball equipment is. This is adorable. Okay, the crack of the bat, right? So how much are those fancy cleats? $36. Doesn't sound too terrible.
Affordable.
Okay. Now let's look at what the cost of a glove is. Now we're getting up there, $62. And then you have to have, as you said, your own bat. $300 plus?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a family, especially of more than one child. So total, we're talking about $410
and that's on
just
the
to
cheap
play.
side. That's on the
cheap side. So where do you think that number probably is?
It's probably closer to 1,000. When you start looking at, when you get to age 13, 14, I want a glove is $250, a bat $300. You know, it starts adding up. But I do say this. There's organizations out there, Major League Baseball has really attacked this with free equipment, trying to bridge that gap, to make that work, because I think they're well aware it's an affordability problem.
Yeah.
It's not that black kids are not playing baseball. They're actually playing. The numbers are growing. They've done a great job with all the programs, but to sustain it is the biggest challenge. And that's with any walk in life, but you got to have sustainability. And as you get older, it becomes more expensive.
Yeah, and it really knocks out a lot of kids who may be the next Jackie Robinson, who may be the next big name in baseball, but they simply cannot afford to join. We heard from a Little League coach who said that the reason he believes a lot of African-American kids don't stick with baseball is because they don't see themselves when they watch the major leagues. How important do you think it is to see someone like you playing hard and doing well?
Very important. I mean, as a kid who grew up watching guys in the 60s and 70s when the numbers were exploding for African-American players, yeah, I had people I could look at and go, that's me. I see that guy. I see myself in him. That has to be fixed. But I am saying this, again, another positive note. When you look at this year's draft coming up in July, the top 5 players on the leaderboard are African-American. You know, so with the inroads of some of the programs, one of the kids that broke in just last week, Hunter Green, made his debut with the Cincinnati Reds. Hunter came through Major League Baseball's pipeline. At 7 years old, he was going to the Youth Academy in Compton, and he came all the way through the program. He'll be the poster child of what can be, and he's now starting pitcher with Cincinnati Reds throwing 100 miles an hour. And so it's going to take a lot of work. People are dedicated to making it happen. Del Matthews, Tony Regans, that whole group of Tony Regans has got a group of people that have really focused on that. So it's changing, but it's tough.
Yeah.
It's work, because the other sports, the numbers, let's look at college football. I could talk all day. I'm going to be real quick with this, but college football offers 85 scholarships.
Right.
Baseball, we have 11.7.
Yeah.
And so they're going to turn around to Hunter Green and go, we'd love to have you come to UCLA, which he was committed to, but you still got to pay $30,000 a year to go to school.
Which
this is a number 1 draft pick.
And for most people, look, that $30,000 a year crushes everything. You just can't do it, even with loans. You don't want to come out of school with $200,000 in loans, right?
Exactly.
So you've got all this financial problems, and you just mentioned it's not just for the little kids in Little League; it's for the kids getting into college as well. I have to say, I'm really, really thankful that you came on the show, because I think it's important for people to see you and understand that, like, there is a path. You just got to find it.
And last thing, I want to wrap it up with this with Jackie, since we're celebrating Jackie Robinson Day. 4-sport athlete in college: football, basketball, track, and baseball. So it's possible. I'm a believer in play as many sports you possibly can, because we don't know. And with specialization, you sit here and go, pick a sport at age 11. I don't know if that kid's going to be 6'11".
Right.
Maybe he's a basketball player. Maybe he's the next Patrick Mahomes, a quarterback. You don't know. Imagine if Patrick Mahomes, whose dad was a major league pitcher, said, nope, you're just going to play baseball.
And some families do that. That's really good. That's a really good point. Do you remember I had to bring this up. Do you remember this ad, Bo Knows? Remember Bo Jackson?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And he played all the sports. I remember, like, we as kids would be like, I'm Bo. Like, we would brag about if we could do more than one sport. So that's a really good point.
It's important for us to see people that look like us, and we can identify with that person.
This is great. Harold Reynolds, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, we're going to pound it out? Is that we're going to get the pound? Okay, there we go. Thank you so much.
You're awesome.
Appreciate you as well.
Thank you.